I'm not here to tell you this Pokemon is broken or OP or legit strong or any of the other things that I might say about a Pokemon, but I will say this. They have fixed Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales is one of those Pokemon that you can't help but root for, and it's really needed a lot of love, and it hasn't gotten it. Even its most recent buff was a nerf. They've said this was a bug, a mistake. I tend to believe them given what they did and given how they have now fixed this mistake. Hi, Jake, your resident content cowboy, by the way. Yee-haw. Lightning bolt sound. Yeehaw. So let's talk about Alolan Ninetales. I've been playing Alolan Ninetales all morning with this new buff, and here's what I can say definitively about Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales is in a better position than it was before, and it still runs into a lot of the same issues. Let's talk about the stats right now. So when they buffed Alolan Ninetales originally, they had its top end be as high, actually 1 point higher special attack-wise than Gardevoir. And if you don't know a lot about the stats, because the game doesn't tell you anything about the stats in here, just know that higher is better generally. There are also other ways things are calculated. Someone could have a lower stat but higher scaling on a move. It's a whole lot of stuff that I go into in other videos, but in general, raising a Pokemon's stats is good for that Pokemon. Now, special attack is one of the more interesting stats inside Pokemon Unite, in my opinion, because it only gets calculated on characters' boosted attacks and their moves when they are a special attack style Pokemon. Unlike an attack type Pokemon where it's happening on all of their basics as well as their moves. Attack seems to just overall be a better stat, in my opinion. Better, I guess, is a weird word to throw out there, but my point is attack seems to affect more things because it also affects your basics, while special affects your moves and your boosted, but it doesn't affect your basic attacks. So special attackers are always kind of in this weird place where when their moves hit, they hit hard, but they're always left a little behind attackers in damage output. At least some of them are. Ninetales right now actually sits in this really interesting camp with Cramorant, I think. Both Pokemon are good. Both Pokemon have utility. All of their moves have an element of control to them. They can do some damage over time with some of their moves. They're both good attackers. They're very squishy. They don't have a lot of mobility unless you're using Cramorant's dive air slash build. So you're kind of in this weird position with these Pokemon where when supported by a good team, you feel very, very powerful. And when not supported by a good team, you feel like you're alone out there, freezing in the cold, just waiting for that Lucario to run on over to you and power up punch you right in the face. But I'm tangenting right now, a word that's definitely real. I was tangenting there, and what I wanted to talk about first was I wanted to talk about the numbers. So originally it was almost exactly Gardevoir's special attack scaling, and now they have fixed it where you get that power spike again at level 4 when you evolve into Ninetales, and then you still scale as high as Gardevoir scales. That being said, your moves don't take into account your special attack number as much as Gardevoir. So, in that sense, you're stronger, great, but it doesn't affect your moves as much as it does a Pokemon like Gardevoir. So, it's good, but not so good. The nice thing about any little buff is small numbers, small changes, they start to add up and things start to change, especially when new Pokemon get added to the game. Metas start to shift and you start to see things become more viable when before they weren't. I still think Ninetales needs some work. I do. I think it's good, and I think it's getting close to being a really, really solid pick. In a coordinated setting, I actually think its value goes way up. One of the issues you have with Ninetales is when you are playing it alone and you don't have a lot of support, it can really be a tough Pokemon to play with. Let's talk about the moveset that I've been running all morning, which is the Avalanche Blizzard build. So Avalanche and Blizzard both take advantage of the special attack scaling increase that Ninetales has received. Again, it isn't even that much of an increase. I don't know if I've even said this yet, but the numbers aren't that much higher than they were before. Really, they're higher, but they're not that much higher. Again, however, Pikachu's Thunder ability was kind of increased a little bit, and all of a sudden it became extremely viable. I think once you learn how to use Avalanche and Blizzard together, so Avalanche throws out that wall, and Blizzard, if it hits it, it creates this damage over time effect in the area. Once you start to learn the finesse of that, and then of course basic attacking all the time so that you can freeze enemies and have those attacks burst out and hit people. Once you learn the finesse of these moves, I think Ninetales is really, really great. I would just recommend laning with a Snorlax or someone who knows how to control that lane and how to push people around. If you have a team that's willing to set up this Ninetales, I think it can be amazing. And the nicest thing about this Pokemon is it's really, really good early. It's kind of an opposite of Gardevoir, as odd as that is, given that its scaling is actually somewhat similar. So early game, even right away, Ninetales is great. Powder Snow is great, and Icy Wind, I had to look it up, I forgot the name of the other move. Icy Wind is also really, really strong, really nice at stealing enemy Pokemon early. The laning phase for Ninetales is great, and they've increased it. It's just better. The special attack is just better. I will say, run some choice specs. You'll steal wild Pokemon. You'll KO enemies a lot. I think choice specs are the item for Ninetales because while its abilities don't scale as well as Gardevoir's, its moves, don't scale as well as Gardevoir's, its special attack number is high. And with Avalanche and with Blizzard, you are hitting people a lot consistently with your abilities. And if you just keep hitting people a lot with your abilities, it gives more and more opportunities for choice specs to do its damage. If you don't know how choice specs works, once every 8 seconds, based off your special attack stat, it can trigger. And if you're hitting people with abilities all the time, it just means the likelihood of that triggering more and more happens. Boy, I didn't get to the end of that sentence well, did I? So it's this extra burst of damage that you get with Ninetales, and if you're using your abilities right, you're setting up your walls, you're throwing out your Blizzard to hit walls, that could be your Avalanche or other walls inside the map, and you're creating that damage over time effect, you're creating tons of opportunities for your choice specs to do that extra damage. And from there, I think you get a lot of surprising KOs, and again, like a Cramorant, you're controlling the battlefield in a big way. You just have to be careful to not be alone, not be caught out by yourself, because by yourself you're in a lot of trouble as Alolan Ninetales. For the Avalanche Blizzard build, I like running a Buddy Barrier, Focus Band, choice specs. I think you could possibly drop either Buddy or Focus and put a Muscle Band in there if you'd like. Let me tell you about each item and why. Buddy Barrier, of course, Buddy Barrier wins matches, it saves you in encounters, and having a Unite move like Ninetales, which is pretty good, but also more beneficial the more people that are around you in a team fight, it sets up scenarios where a Buddy Barrier keeps you alive so that you can cast and hit people longer, and it keeps an ally alive. It's one of those items it's really hard to discount its use. You kind of want to pull it off because you want funner items, but you win games with Buddy Barriers a lot. Focus Band, because Ninetales is kind of the Pokemon that can get attacked and you're in a bad situation and you can't get out and you don't have your abilities up yet, you can't cast, so it gives you opportunities to stay alive. And in the laning phase, it just sets up moments where, ooh, you might have gotten KO'd and been out of lane for a while and now you're not. And Ninetales is always going to be in lane. And then choice specs for the reasons I brought up earlier. The reason I wouldn't recommend either of the other glasses is, again, the scaling on your abilities is not that impressive. So giving an extra 7% to your abilities, and then that being, an extra 7% to special attack, and then that being calculated in your moves, it's just not that big of an increase. Whereas choice specs, you actually get this nice little burst of damage. I think it's the better option for glasses. And then special attack specs, your scaling again isn't amazing, and you don't score a ton as Ninetales. You really don't. You have very little mobility as this character, so I really don't think it is that viable at all to use an item like that. Other items that I think people might think about would be possibly an energy amplifier, so you can do a lot of damage after your Unite move. I think this is not an ideal choice, honestly. The Muscle Band I really, really like. Of course, with the Dazzling Gleam Aurora Veil build, which is not what I was running to test this, that is Muscle Band for sure, because you're doing so many basic attacks with that build. It's also good in this build. I was dropping Focus Band, dropping Buddy Barrier for Muscle Band, switching it in and out just to see what I liked a little bit more. And no matter what build you're using with Ninetales, you are attacking with your basics all the time. Any character like this, in fact, any ranged character for the most part, I think Muscle Band is a great choice. No, it doesn't help you a ton with its attack stat, and there's questions as to whether or not the attack speed helps at all. It's the extra chunks of damage that come from the Muscle Band. I'm trying to think of what other items people might consider for this, but I think those would probably be some of the big ones here. Let me just pull up a list of some of the items and see if there's anything I'm not thinking of here that people might run. I've seen people run a scope lens, but that's more for the Dazzling Gleam build, and I honestly don't think that's that good. Razor Claw, no. Shell Bell, maybe, but the problem with the Shell Bell on a Pokemon like this is once your health is getting low, it's kind of gone. You know, it's not that your health gets low and then you hit people with some abilities and you get it back. It's really once you're kind of focused down, you're kind of focused down for the most part with Ninetales. So those are the items I would really recommend for this. All in all, I think Ninetales is in a slightly better place, and I think they fixed it so that its early game is back to that dominant early game. If you're going to run Ninetales, try to be conscious of being with an ally that can really help you set up some situations in the game. Don't find yourself alone in lane with Ninetales. It's hard. It's hard out there for a Ninetales. Ninetales, not broken, not OP, not crazy strong, but a lot better. Fixed. Ninetales is fixed. And that early game it's pretty brutal. It's really good. Let me know what you think if you've played Ninetales or if you're a Ninetales main. I'd really like to hear from you. What do you think about this buff? Does it feel substantial? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. It means a lot to me that you do that. I love you all. Goodbye.